Hey there everybody, it's Joe Blodgett, the writer-director of Locke short film, and I'm here today to break down a scene from the movie, so let's jump into it. So the part we're going to look at is right after Locke's father mysteriously disappears. His mom comes and saves him and brings him back to the cabin that they live in, and she goes into the father's tool shed, which Locke has never been allowed to go in before in his entire life, and he's left there alone, and basically curiosity gets the best of him and he ends up going inside the tool shed. Gotta say, God bless the crew. They were shooting a movie in town called Marshall at the same time, and we shot this on the weekends. Most of Locke was overnights, so they would shoot, on the other film for like Monday through Friday, long hours. It's a brutal shoot. And then they would come to my set for overnights like an hour away. So my crew was awesome. Literally couldn't have done this without them. The scene we're taking a look at was an overnight. This is shot at a Girl Scout camp. This location was like a tool shed that they kept all of like the summer activities in. And it was like a previously owned Girl Scout camp. So it's kind of like the leftovers of a purchase. So it was crammed with stuff. And so like me and a whole bunch of like people came and helped out. So it was like the production designer, Frank Coppola, Matt Nardone, the DP, executive producer, Matt Fleck, Beth Hedges, both producers on the film as well as first AD. They all kind of came out and we just kind of like put gloves on and started ripping out all the crap that was in there. And then finally when it was clear, we ended up setting up like the entire look of this tool shed, because this is not what it looked like whatsoever. And then when we got to shooting this scene, which was an overnight, we had a Steadicam, and Nardone basically is going in through the tool shed with young Locke and kind of like discovering this mysterious sci-fi location that he's never been privy to in his entire life. We just kind of like decorated the whole place with just random kind of sci-fi things, and like I found these little balloon lights that if you turn them on, they're like little blue LEDs, and I bought like 100 of them on Amazon, and I just put them in random things throughout this whole place just to give a little like sparkle of light in the background. You can kind of see in the background, there's all these lights in like a little drawers. I just took them and randomly threw them in there, like the day we shot. All these vials on that tool bench are just random concoctions. There might be poison in there, I don't know. There's this locker, and in the story, basically, it shows you different points of your life, but it's a reflection of you. So you kind of see yourself growing up older and older. Matt Fleck, or Matt Nardone, or whomever, I'm so sorry, had this locker prop, and what we did is we kind of spray painted it. We went to Hobby Lobby and bought like different handles and like put them on the locker, and like Frank came in and just like spruced it up, gave it a little bit of old texture to it to create this kind of like antique looking mysterious locker. And then we lined it with a mirror on the back of it. And all these sounds that you're hearing of him opening it, all the pure genius of our sound designer, his name's Marshall, he littered in there all those locker opening sounds, because it literally sounds like nothing. When you opened it on the day, it was nothing. It was super like unmysterious, and it was kind of little lackluster. So like all credit goes to him for creating that sound landscape for us. We shot the section where we're looking out at them first, looking out at little Locke first from like inside the locker, which we had like a removable wall that we removed the locker back, we put the camera in and shot at him. When we did the reverse later on, I realized that when he peeks in right here, like he has two hands in frame and peeks in. He had the light, this guy right here, he had the light in his hand, and it just mysteriously vanished, I guess. So on the day we were thinking like, okay, maybe because we can't see it and I don't want to do a cutaway close-up of it, it's not important, but just like mime putting your shoulder down, and then we'll just put a sound effect in that sounds like you set it down on something. So if you watch that back, you'll see like right behind him as he's opening the locker, his arm goes down a little bit. We had like a little sound effect of the light going down, just to kind of piece together that little plot hole, because we shot out of order. I mean, that's something that happens on a set all the time. Yeah, basically on the day we had both actors with us, Brian Burness, who plays older Locke and the Locke we see throughout most of the movie, and then younger Locke is played by Aiden. And I had both of them there with me on the day, and we shot the scene first with Aiden, and then while we were shooting the next part, to get like the reflection of older Locke, I had Brian watch the footage and mimic the way Aiden acted the scene out. Me and Brian talked about it, and he had this like childlike naivety to his look, kind of a little more innocent as he's looking in at the reflection there versus what older Locke would probably look like if he looked into there. So it's like all those little nuances really mattered to match the differences in the performance. And then basically after we shot both of those shots, you know, the one with the back of Aiden's head and then the one of Brian's face in the reflection, I basically cut it and split both of those shots and then pieced them together in post so that it looked like one seamless shot. Yeah, so when he sees himself, obviously it freaks him out. He has no idea like anything like this ever exists, so he falls back on the ground. I didn't really want to shoot like a kid falling on the ground, and like it sometimes could be a little tricky. Maybe it wouldn't look right if they're not a stunt actor and we don't want to hurt anybody. So the idea I had was kind of this like a little bit of a homage and nod to like a Spielberg kind of shot, so showing the impact through maybe a prop instead of the actual person. So I have this I have the light just slide across the ground. So on the day when we were shooting that close-up, to which I'm notorious for doing close-ups like this, like 100 takes. Maybe on like the 12th take of sliding it in, it was like it hit perfectly, and at the same time the light kind of flashed in and out. I think it's because there's like 8 big D batteries in there, and they probably all shuffled around at just the perfect time. The light like flickered on and off, and it was like, oh my God, that's it. So like using that instead of seeing him fall, I think was just maybe a little bit more impactful and a little more stylized. So there we get to see the box, which is like kind of a main prop throughout most of the film. And this is kind of like the first time young Locke ever finds this box. And when his mom comes down, and the mother played by Camilla Maxwell, she comes down, sees that box, and knows that that's something that they're going to use for their plan in order to get their father back. I love all the subtle looks from Aiden here, like they're so perfect. It's so like little. He's got like maybe like 3 lines in most of this whole movie, but he kills it, man. Like just those, it's that little look in the eye and like the curiosity and the intrigue, but then like the horror. He's got it all, and there's barely anything on the page for him to work with. So hats off to you, buddy. And it was such a pleasure to work with Camilla too. Like she's fantastic. And if you don't know her, you wouldn't know this, but she's Australian and has an accent, and she, I think, flawlessly has an English accent in this entire movie, which was awesome. She's great. Same with Locke's father. He has a British accent, an English accent. You would never know that the entire time. Like, they're so good at it. It blows my mind. So this is like another one of those like oopsie moments. In the script, it says that she walks over with a few vials in her hand and then has this kind of like coughing fit and then drinks a vial. And when we shot the wide shot when she runs up to young Locke, it just felt weird for her to have all these vials in her hand, so we decided to just kind of cut that idea. And then when we got like, you know, an hour later into this overnight of shooting, we're like, but you have to drink it. Oh, shit. Crap. So she's like, well, what if, you know, I just kind of like pretend to reach for something and maybe it was in my pocket? And I was like, that sounds good. And we'll cut to the close-up in the scene so we don't really see where you're pulling the vial from. And hopefully nobody notices that it just kind of magically appeared there. Sometimes the editor has to fix those things. And it did, I think. Kind of the substance that she drinks in this movie, it basically is like the idea of time in a liquid form. So she's really sick in this film, and when she drinks this kind of silver substance, she's drinking back her years in time. So she like regenerates, her cells regenerate and go backwards before she had this sickness. And I also wanted to kind of amp up kind of like the stakes in this scene. So we've seen her do this a few times throughout the movie, drinking the substance. And on this one, I wanted to show that like it's starting to take its toll. So she starts to cough up blood. And you know, something that we didn't super go over in the film is that like she might not be from Earth completely, so her blood is blue. So we did, when she reveals her hand, it's kind of like a slightly blue looking substance. I did all the visual effects for this film as well. If I could, I would totally get somebody else who's much more skilled and awesome at visual effects than myself, but you know, it's a short film, we got a budget, and there was no budget left for that. So when I wrote this thing, I was like, I'm gonna do only certain things in the story that I know I could pull off myself. And so this is one of them where like I wanted to have her, kind of the sickly look on her go away, and for us to see it on camera rather than just to have her look sickly in makeup and then cut to another shot and she's all better. I think that would kind of like, wouldn't sell the effect that something's actually happening. So I think we would need to see something, you know, something subtle that just shows you something's happening when she drinks this substance. And then the scene ends with like probably one of my favorite shots, which is this wide shot. You know, you see here of like the mother, she's like kind of looking off after she just regenerated from taking the substance. And then like over the shoulder of older Locke, he starts to appear, and it kind of like morphs from what the past looked like to what it now is in the present. And I kind of wanted to have this like seamless, no-cut transition just to show you that he's thinking about everything that happened to him as a kid. And he's like realizing this as he's taking this journey through his childhood. And the way we pulled that off, we shot that entire scene. The one with mom and young Locke, and then we finished it with that wide shot. And basically, we locked it off on a tripod. We had like caution tape around it. Please don't bump it. Whatever you do. And then we, as a whole team, meticulously like took everything out of there that was a part of the older tool shed set, and then we dressed it to look like the current present day set, which is basically like completely abandoned of anything that was there. We added leaves and dust to make it look like time has passed. And then when it looked awesome, like when we were like really happy with it, we had one take to do this. So as Brian walks into this over the shoulder, we have the camera completely locked off still. And then he walks over to the workbench to set the box down. And at that point, if everything was going great, we would unlock the head and slowly tilt up to show older Locke. But like that had to be perfect. We couldn't really just reset that again. So we did like a couple of like rehearsal takes, and then finally we went for it. And on the first take is what you see right there. And it worked out awesomely, and really proud of it. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite scenes. Now we're with older Locke in our kind of like newer present day location. I wanted to do this callback showcasing like this locker prop within the movie, like the difference between young Locke experiencing it and older Locke experiencing it. Shot it the same way we did the other one. It was almost kind of in like reverse. This time I had Brian act out the scene as older Locke. I had Aiden right off set watching, and then as we went to do the coverage side where the mirror is put in place, I had Aiden act more like an older Locke as he's looking into their locker, because what it is it's not like a portal to the past. He's not actually seeing Locke of 11 years ago. What he's seeing is himself looking like himself from 11 years ago. So, and that's the difference also. In the past, he's not looking at his future self in the future, he's looking at what he will become in 11 years. So that's why I wanted each character to act a little different in the reflection. And I wanted him to kind of like have this last little goodbye. So in this part of the movie, this is the point when he's about to take the final steps and hopefully finding his father. He's basically kind of saying goodbye to his childhood right there. Like, I'm taking the next step of the journey. And I thought it'd just be like a nice little moment before there's no turning back. So when he opens up this middle section of the locker, it's kind of like what he'll look like at his middle age. So that's where he is right now. And inside of it, you see that cube. That cube's a callback to earlier in the film, something that an alien character presented to young Locke and his father. And when his father vanished, that cube was the only thing left. So it's like the only link to where maybe his father would be. And so he brings that white cube back to where his father mysteriously vanished all those years ago to find out where he might have gone. In this last section, I wanted this top locker to be a look into the future, like what he would look like in the future. So I kind of played with this idea that the timer would go off right before he gets to open it, and he has a choice whether to look in it or get going, because the main goal is to find his father again, but the curiosity is still there to look in that top locker. And it's like, what will you see? Is it going to be, are you going to see your future self? Or maybe you die tonight, and when you open up that locker door, there's nothing. And would you want to know that? Would you want to know if you die tonight? So he has that curiosity for a second, but his main goal is to find his dad, so he leaves. And I like that playing there. And this box prop, I love it. This is like one of my favorite props in the movie. And that clock that we end up putting in there, it's a Nixie tube clock. I mean, I don't know why I thought this, but when we got it, I figured we could just have a countdown. That's not how clocks work, at least not this one. And this one had like, it was like Russian directions. And I have no idea how to actually program it. Thank God Matt Nardone is a genius and figured it out. But the only way we can do this countdown in the movie was to reverse every single shot we saw the box in. So in this shot, when we're pushing into the box and it's counting down, on the day we had to shoot that in reverse. So if we wanted to push in, we had to actually dolly backwards. And as we dolly backwards and the time is counting up, if we reverse the clip in post, it would be pushing in and it would count down. I just love the way it looks. I love it. Frank did a great job designing and then building this box. It is amazing. And I'm really proud of this score in this whole section. The composer is named Steve Borowski, and he killed it. I kind of love like older John Williams and like older like Spielberg films with like the mystery always underlying in the score, and that's exactly what I wanted from this movie. It kind of had those homages in it. So like me and Steve talked about the idea of like having like a always slowly building up in the background, and he absolutely killed it for this section. The whole movie is amazing. Steve did a great job. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching this and watching the breakdown for my short film Locke. It's out there and available on Amazon Prime if you want to go check out the full film. It was a great time. It's probably one of the best experiences of my life, and I love everybody who was a part of it and helped me out make it. It was a blast, and I'll like literally never forget it. I want to thank Robin and Hanna from the Film Neighbor Network for asking me to do this. I had a ton of fun breaking down my short film Locke. And I think it's awesome what they're doing with the information they're putting out there about the film industry, because I truly believe that if you want to be a director and a writer, or you want to work in this industry, the more you know about the other departments, just the better filmmaker you're going to become. Being able to talk to them and communicate with them is the entire job of a director. So the more you know, the more you can talk to them about it. And help you create what you want to see on your film. So thank you very much. I had a great time doing this, and I look forward to seeing all the rest of the content that the Film Neighbor Network puts out next. All right, see you guys. Bye.